So welcome to the 2015 NASA Ames Summer Series. Having a great vision, but lacking leadership and teamwork does not accomplish anything. Having great leadership without a vision and a team does not accomplish anything. Having a great team with no leadership and no vision also accomplishes nothing. You need the combination of all three. That is important when you're faced with extreme situations. It is very important when the life is in jeopardy at that point. Extreme situations teach us about ourselves, teach us how to survive, and most importantly, teach us the importance of home. And in this case, our Earth. Today's talk, entitled Leadership on the Edge, will be given by Sir Robert Swan. Robert received a BA in Ancient History from St. Chad's College at Durham University. It is important to know your history, to know your future. He is the first person in the world to walk, not to drive, not to fly, to walk to both the North and the South Poles. He is the founder of 2041 and a polar explorer. He has served as a special envoy to UNESCO, Director General, and as the UN Goodwill Ambassador for Youth. The youth is the future. In recognition of his work, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II awarded him the Polar Medal in 1998 and the distinction of Officer of the Order of the British Empire in 1995. Please join me in welcoming Sir Robert Swan.
Well, thank you very much, Jacob. One word Jacob didn't say, and let's get this straight right from the beginning, that actually I am the first person in history stupid enough to have walked to both poles. 900 nautical miles to the south, 700 nautical miles to the north. And if you are that person, and I am, I guarantee you that Rob Swan standing here is only sure of four things forever. First and foremost, I'm sure I hate bloody walking. I've done enough, definitely. Secondly, translated into American for you, the coldest day I ever will be in is minus 78 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a bit chilly. And at that temperature, sweat turns to ice inside your clothing. So the second thing I'm sure of is I do not enjoy having ice in my underpants. It's yet to thrill. Thirdly, next week I celebrate my 59th birthday. And after 59 fairly tough years so far on the planet, I've yet to find an insurance company that's got the courage to give me life cover. No one will cover me. You're going to find out why. And lastly, which I think is really important for all of us. You are the future explorers. You are the young people here, and it's fabulous. Joined by, I know, some more senior people here as well. But I think it's really important to understand, from my point of view, before we undertake a mission, do you know what people say to me? You're going to fail, Rob. You're going to die. Now, I won't say, because I'm on record, what I really think about these people. It's not much. But the point is, open any newspaper this morning, watch any TV program today, most of it is negative. Why? Because it's easy to be negative. It's harder to be positive. So I'd like to start today by saying the most important part of leadership is to be the positive person around the table. No one is inspired by negative. Now imagine you're connected with fairly wide, open places, but imagine walking across a continent twice the size of Australia. Your destination is one building the size of this room, the South Pole Scientific Station. A map of where you're going looks like the screen. That's the map. And eventually, Your team of 3 people arrive at the South Pole. It was hard work. I lost 69 pounds in 70 days, but we did it. By some aeroplanes, you find yourself standing at Heathrow Airport a little bit thin. You haven't had a proper bath or shower for a year. That's even extreme for an Englishman. You haven't seen your girlfriend for a year. There's lots of excitement. But the first thing you're told standing there is you've got to go on a TV chat show with 20 million people laughing at you, and the first question they ask is, was it cold, Bob? But eventually, they do get round to asking one good question, and it's very relevant to where we are. Why, Rob, did you do this? This is a photograph of me in 1969. Check out that haircut. And I was woken in the middle of the night to come down and watch the black and white TV to see that moment where we landed on the moon. And I remember looking at it going, wow, I'm doing this, definitely. But even then, I realized my limitations. I was interested in history. I wasn't a scientist. So I began to think, could I find outer space on Earth? It didn't take long. I found the Antarctic. And the Antarctic would be the place where I would try to make the dream come true. Could I feel like I was in space, somewhere on Earth? And Antarctica is an extraordinary place, the only place in the world that all of us own. No one owns Antarctica. It's the last true great wilderness. And the early explorers, the real people, Scott, Shackleton, Amundsen, Peary, Byrd, the real explorers, because I'm not an explorer, I'm simply a traveler. The real explorers, 75 years before us, they used ponies, dogs. They had teams of 20 people laying out supplies in front of a main team, and the team would pick up those supplies on their return. I didn't want to repeat history. I wanted to find something where we could push the edge. And we chose the longest unassisted march ever made anywhere on Earth in history. We would start with no radio communications, no satellite devices to press a button and where it tells you where you are on Earth. We would navigate using the sun, a sextant, and a watch. And we would attempt a one-way trip, 900 nautical miles. And to put it into the context of space, it would be like landing on a planet where all you had was air and ice, and you would have to survive for 70 days on that planet and travel 900 miles on foot, completely unassisted. That would be the plan. To turn any dream into a reality needs commitment. You know, in a world over-dominated, I might say, by instant communication, don't think that you will inspire people by sending them a text or a WhatsApp. You will inspire people by showing leadership, walking the talk, believing in what you're doing, what you're saying. It took me 7 years at the age of 20 to raise $5 million US. Most of those years, I had to really understand the word no. People would not support me. But if you have a dream, hang on to that dream, believe in it, it can come true. We buy a ship, and 25 of us sail south, past Australia, south from New Zealand, and then we head into the mighty Southern Ocean. We land in Antarctica, 3,000 miles from civilization, and unload our energy. Without energy in Antarctica, you're dead. And 27 years ago, it was good old British coal, and jet aviation fuel would be our energy, the most reliable energy at the time. 5 of us would live inside a tiny box for 9 months, No communications. We wouldn't be connected for 1 year. No postal service, just 5 of us living in Antarctica, and to be blunt, very different people. I didn't choose my best friends to go on this expedition. Diversity is strength. Have the courage always to choose the right people for a mission, for a job. Don't choose your best friends just because they say yes. Choose people who challenge you, push you, because that is strong. 9 months inside a tiny little hut, 5 months of total darkness in the Antarctic. And we came through. We hated each other from day one. But we came through with a simple 2 ways of communicating. One was to tell each other the truth. And secondly, to listen to what people were really saying. Not hear what you want to hear, but listen to what people are really saying. And during that time, we would unpack, repack. Our technology was to try and reduce the weight with which we would have to pull. We knew that we could only pull 360 pounds on a sled. More than that, the sled would dig in and we were dead. So we had to remove every single possible extra ounce. We even cut the handles off our toothbrushes because that was extra weight. And gradually, we pulled the weight down, ounce by ounce, gram by gram, to each of us pulling 360 pounds per person. 80 days of food and fuel, 79 pounds total weight of Jet A1, which we would use inside our tent to melt the ice, to cook. And we used simply, between 3 of us, unbelievably, only 1 pint of jet fuel per day to stay alive. And we'd have a marvelous little stove called an MSR. Walking to the South Pole is extremely hard. 9 hours a day, 7 days a week, 70 days in a row. You must cross on your journey through 6,000 crevasses. And if you fall into a crevasse, you hope you die. Because if you die, it's fine. But if you stay alive and you're 100 foot down a crevasse, we carried no ropes, no ladders, no rescue equipment. We have no radio equipment. So if you go down, you stay down. So you hoped you died. For the simple reason, it would have been a bit grim to wave goodbye to your friends 100 foot above. 6,000 crevasses. How did we come through those? We truly trusted each other. Without trust, you're nothing. And in order to trust people, you have to fully trust people, not half trust them. So whoever's leading through the crevasse fields would choose the route. And the others would follow that route unconditionally and without debate. Why? Because if we'd stopped 6,000 times for a feedback session, I don't like this one, mate, looks a bit tricky. Let's stop, have tea, talk it through, perhaps send each other a couple of texts to work out when our next meeting's going to be about crossing the crevasse. Perhaps even, share our feelings, hold hands. Now, had we done that 6,000 times, I wouldn't be here because we had to average 12 nautical miles every day. Fall below 12, we run out of food and fuel, and in Antarctica, you're dead in 5 days. So efficiency for you, efficiency for us is a matter of life or death. We reach halfway to the pole, and in a space term, we reach the point of no return now, because once past halfway, we can't turn back, because we'll run out of food and fuel. So now we commit to reach one building, the South Pole Scientific Station, 500 miles on. We reach it or we don't come home. Now we commit. We are now standing in an area the size of the United States of America, and we are the only people there. Bit lonely. And beneath our feet, 16,000 feet of solid ice. 70% of all the world's fresh water, 90% of all the world's ice. We're standing on it. Now, I have to be very, very honest in saying I did this because it went down well with girls at parties. You know, I didn't do this for any scientific save the planet reason. I just wanted to do this. And I'd never thought about our world. I thought somebody else would look after our world, not me. But walking across this ice, I began to think how powerful this place really was. And I ask you to listen to these words carefully. If we continue to melt this, we have a major problem of our survival here on Earth. As we close in on the South Geographic Pole, according to our plans, our ship, Southern Quest, should be at base. They should be unloading an aeroplane. The aeroplane is then taken off from an iceberg. One chance. The plane flies to the pole, looks for us. If they find us, we jump on the plane, go back to the base camp and do something that we promised to do. To raise $5 million when you're 22 years old needed some help. And I hope some of you might remember the name Jacques Cousteau. Well, Jacques Cousteau I was honored for him to be a friend and our patron. He got on the phone and helped raise the money. But being Jacques, he said, Rob, I will help you, but you've got to do something for me. At the end of your expedition, clear away all your garbage, all your rubbish, leave just your footsteps in the snow of the Antarctic and I'll help you. Show respect to the last great wilderness on Earth. I said, Jack, get on the phone, of course we'll do this. So our plan was, we reach the pole, back to the base, load everything up, head north. That's the plan. And after 70 fairly tough days, 3 of us arrived at the bottom of the world, the South Geographic Pole Scientific Station. It was a bit of a shock for the scientists there when 3 people walked by the window, like, what? And we had 5 minutes to stand there and celebrate what was possible. That's why you're here. You're all about what's possible. But the world seems to be rather addicted to what's not possible. And we were proud. And then the base commander from the South Pole Station came out looking a bit gloomy. And I thought, no. And he said, sorry, Rob, your ship just sank. So right at the moment of our pointless success, everything goes terribly wrong. Now, most important thing for all of us is safety. Everybody's safe. But, of course, you can't insure a ship this far south. I'd promised my bank manager I'd pay off my debts by selling the ship. I have no ship. I have no insurance. I go bankrupt. I lose my home. Everybody's laughing at me. And also, I had promised Jacques Cousteau that we would clear away our base camp. I don't have a ship. I'm bankrupt. It's 3,000 miles back to New Zealand. And we'd made a promise. You can buy a lot of books on teamwork and leadership, but I'll save you the money. The most important thing, in my humble opinion, about leadership is you should think carefully before you make a commitment. And once you make a commitment, deliver on it. Do it. Because if you don't, people won't take you seriously ever again. And I promised Jacques Cousteau that we would leave Antarctica tidy. And we would do that. 3 volunteers, no one's ever paid, spent another year at our base camp. I borrowed, yes, an aeroplane from the United States government, God bless America, got the aeroplane and my team back to New Zealand and promised those 3 brave souls that I would return a year later with another ship, pick them up, and deliver on our promise. And I'm very proud to say that we did that. Do you know what leadership is also about? Building track record. So people take you seriously when you have a plan. So we delivered, and that cost me, at the age of 28, a personal debt to the bank of $1.2 million, and I'd never had a job. Took 10 years to repay it. But we were on it. Now, something happened to me walking to the South Pole that actually brought me here today, and it hurt. My eyes changed color through damage in 70 days. Our faces blistered out and the skin ripped away. We hadn't read about this in the diaries of Scott, Shackleton, Peary, Amundsen. You know, faces fell off yesterday, entire team blind, rather tricky position. Now, this hadn't happened to Scott, so what was happening to us? Well, NASA tell us on return, oh, by the way, guys, we've just discovered the hole in the ozone layer and you walked underneath it. Ultraviolet rays down, hit the ice, bounced back, fried our faces off, burnt out our eyes. Bit of a shock, actually. And it started me thinking that maybe some of these issues aren't somebody else's problem. But first, any business people, please don't laugh. I thought I could pay off my debts from the South Pole by walking to the North Pole. This was not the best idea I ever had, but anyhow, I'm not embarrassed to say, and there's nothing wrong at all in having a dream and having curiosity to make that dream a reality. And I wanted to be the first to walk to both poles. So off we go. The team from the South Pole naturally said, Rob, on your own this time, mate. We're not doing it again. Do you want to know why I'm the first person to walk to both poles? It really hurts, that's why. So now, a team of 8 of us from 7 different nations will walk 700 miles across a frozen ocean, every step away from land. Walking to the North Pole is extremely hard. Extremely hard. And we had to learn patience. Never forget patience. How many stupid ideas can you listen to without losing your patience? Check out Darrell on the right from Harlem, New York City. He would become the first American in history to walk to the North Pole. Check out how much he loved Rupert's music. Not much. Here's me coming in from washing at minus 72 degrees Fahrenheit naked. Gentlemen, it is your job, gentlemen, to explain to our esteemed ladies later why you can see absolutely nothing hanging down in the central area of the photograph. Let's just say it's a bit cold. We are now 642 miles from land. 642 miles from land. And the only thing we hadn't planned for happened. The entire ocean breaks up beneath our feet 4 months before it ever had. And the entire ocean is now moving. And do remember, we're British led. So we do not have a CNN camera crew filming us. We don't have a Russian submarine on standby just in case we might get our feet wet. No one knows where we are, and we are dead. 4 months before it ever had. This photo was taken April 7. The ice is supposed to look like this at the North Pole in August. And in 20 hours of trying to go north, we're still going south. But we came up with a fairly novel way of staying alive. We would march 40-hour days for 7 days in a row. How? because it's always daylight at the North Pole. You can have as many hours in a day as you want. And it's going to hurt our team. We're not some survivor discovery program where you can do a bit of sort of surviving and then check into the Four Seasons Hotel in the evening. No, when things go wrong for us, they go badly wrong. And I'm sorry to show this, but it's reality. Our brave American Darrell lost his heel through frostbite, 115 clicks out, and he's got to keep going. He does. That's brave. And after 56 days of battle, we got there. We'd done it. And I became that first person in history stupid enough to have done it, but we were proud to fly that flag. It's still an important flag. And after the North and South Poles, I was summoned by Jacques Cousteau. Great. He didn't say, well done, Robert. He just said, what are you doing for the next 50 years? I said, well, I'm sure you're about to tell me, Jacques. And he did. And 24 years ago, he gave me a 50-year mission. It's not every day you get a 50-year mission, is it? Or maybe it's called life. Because in the year 2041, the treaty that preserves Antarctica can be altered, can be changed. Right now, we all own it, and we can't exploit it. 26 years from now, we might be stupid enough to destroy the only place on Earth that we own, and a place that could be and is now a natural reserve land for science and peace. We've been on that mission now for 24 years, and we're not going to let it go. To do that, we engage young people, because, of course, I'll still be around in 2041, probably rather cranky and badly behaved, but I'll be here. But I won't be voting on it. You will be, the young people here. So I engage young people, and we started this by taking 35 young people from 25 different nations down to the Antarctic to do something practical. I like practical. And we found in Antarctica 1,500 tons of twisted metal left there by the former Soviet Union. And we made a commitment to remove it. I didn't realize how awful this would be, by the way. This took 8 years. A joint cooperation with the Russian government, which means you pay, but this was great. Young people came down. We got a yacht sponsored. Her name is 2041. Then gradually we pulled this together. You can only go there 3 months a year. Took down a ship. And because my mum is 100 years old, I wanted to mention her. Because she inspired me to recycle before the word was popular. And she said, Rob, you can't go to Antarctica and not recycle all the stuff you take out. So following Mum's command, we recycled all of this back in the country of Uruguay, South America. So I think it's quite important, is it not? For all of us to inspire other people. It could be a strain, of course, to move their arm and recycle their bottles and cans and the rest of it. And we're very proud that we did that. And on this day, the penguins came ashore onto their clean beach for the first time in 41 years. But it wasn't the best day of my life. I tell you why, because I realized I wasn't being relevant. It's really important, whatever stage you are in life, just to check that you are still being relevant. And I realized I couldn't help preserve Antarctica by being a garbage collector and looking after penguins. I had to get more serious. And I realized the only reason that people would go to Antarctica would be to exploit it for fossil fuels. So how could we make it not financially worth going there? Easy. Just use more clean, renewable energy here and it won't make financial sense per barrel of oil, per ton of gas to go and exploit Antarctica. So I changed to be renewable energy champion and tester. First, the dream was, could we have a building in Antarctica one day only running on renewable energy? At this time, again, NASA told the world that the Larsen B ice shelf in Antarctica was breaking up. So I began to think, this is getting really complicated. I'm trying to preserve Antarctica by using more renewable energy, and now Antarctica is melting. So maybe there was a link. Use more renewable energy in the real world, maybe for our survival as a species, and still that might help preserve Antarctica. So we started the voyage for cleaner energy, 215,000 nautical miles around the world in our yacht, showing young people how renewable energy works. Solar, wind. Actually, a sail on our yacht made from recycled plastic bottles and a solar panel sail at the time, and it worked, testing out different types of fuels in our engines, and every year we go to Antarctica, just for 2 weeks. Some of you really ought to come, actually. And every year we go south, and I have a big focus on the most important nation to me, India. India has 1.4 billion people. And if they make the same mistakes that we continue to make to get what we have, then we do have a problem. So rather than saying things are a problem, try and do something. So we've engaged a lot of fantastic young people from India. Same goes for China on our expeditions to the Antarctic. Also, some fabulous women, ladies, women, girls here. I'm so proud of this. We've taken over 60 women from the Middle East, sometimes from countries that have never had a woman go to Antarctica before. And they've come back as champions on the environment, champions of hope. We go south every year in March. What an extraordinary place. We see where the great ice caps really are melting. I go every year, so I see the change. It's true ground truth. I see it every year, how it changes. And we were there in March this year, and the hottest day ever recorded, again thanks to NASA, told the world that in Antarctica, on that day, was 64 degrees Fahrenheit. It was like being in some appalling apocalypse film. 64 degrees in Antarctica. We need to listen to what our world is telling us. And I'm proud to say that over the last 7 years, we've built our education station in Antarctica. I'm so proud of this because a private individual can't have a building in Antarctica, and I've got one. Thanks to the Russians who at last helped me after I cleared all their rubbish. And this runs all on renewable energy. I'm one of the only people that gave my home to the bank manager. He was asking for it so often, I said, look, just take it. Keep it. And my home is really here. Girls, check out the plastic flowers. Efforts are made. And it runs only on renewable energy. And if it can work in Antarctica, it can work anywhere, especially where you all go. And we've sailed around the world, and as I say, India has been a very important part of my life. And if you took a yacht to India, you'd end up in customs for 47 years minimum. So be relevant. It wouldn't matter if I took a yacht there. What mattered was to get on my bike and do 3,000 miles on a bicycle around India. That was relevant, not wearing some white suit with a sort of pith helmet going, come on chaps, move a bit of this rubbish, could you? No, that's not relevant. Be relevant. And if you think walking to both poles is dangerous, try bicycling around India. Check out the color of the traffic signal, for example, red as everybody goes through it. And I'm delighted to say that Hasita is here today, and Hasita kindly helped us as a volunteer to build our education station at a tiger reserve in the center of India. We get 500,000 visitors to see the tigers, but they see how the renewable energy is working. And Hasita, I want to thank you very much for that. And the people who come with us to Antarctica, they go back and do extraordinary things. Paris, here, came to Antarctica with us, came back and built an education station in the middle of the Himalayas. Got all the sponsorship himself and also provided a lot of homes with electric light for the first time. However, that light came through solar. And again, in the United States, James Bray came with us to the Antarctic. It took him 7 years, but he did it, and he's built an education station in the Blue Ridge Mountains of West Virginia. So, I thought, great, I might get a life here. Prime Minister? No. These things happen. I thought, things are going well, we're getting the renewable energy going, we're getting our education stations going and taking fabulous people to Antarctica. And then you, NASA, told the world that, here is the Larsen B ice shelf, not very big, that there was increased breakup of these huge ice shelves. You know this. The problem is that the people out there don't seem to have joined the dots as to what this means. If you remove these floating ice shelves, they do not add to sea level because they're already floating. But take away these ice shelves and it releases the main body of the Antarctic western ice sheet to pour into the ocean even faster. But no one's joining the dots. Everybody knew there was a hole in the ozone layer. Not very many people know that we're fixing it. Everybody heard about the Larsen B ice shelf, but no one's joining the dots on this. So I'm proud when you see parts of Antarctica breaking off that, are the size of small states in the United States of America. It's time to get real. And sadly, and I mean it, the only thing I seem to be good at doing is getting cold. So we're going back. And I might say that in my business, you're an old man at 35. So at the age of 60, I'm going back to the South Pole on what we're calling the South Pole Energy Challenge. And we will start at the South Pole, which we arrived at 30 years ago, and retrace our steps of 900 miles on foot back out to the edge of the Antarctic. And I'm sure you all know, but a great friend and a man I hugely respect, Bertrand Piccard and Andre, his fellow pilot, have been undertaking this extraordinary flight around the world only on solar. 5 days and 5 nights up there, only with solar. It's a bit like the Wright brothers. And Jack, it's just extraordinary. I don't know if you know Jack, who is one of your senior advisors here. He's younger than my mother, of course, but Jack is a senior member. And Jack met Orville Wright. Think of that. And those were the people that started flight. And this is about like going back to go forward. Extraordinarily brave, and really I respect it fully. And I'm not very good at kind of dates and similes of dates. But if you go back again, I don't know if you know, Jack told me today that it was Charles Lindbergh who decided on this place being the site that you are now on. He decided on that. And Charles Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic in his plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, in 1927. I don't know if you've ever seen that plane, like, wow, brave. And it took 30 years before the first jet, naturally British, crossed from London to New York. The Comet was the first jet passenger airline to go across the Atlantic. 30 years on. It only took, with your help, 10 years to go from 1958 to 1969 for Apollo 11. Think of that. 30 years from Lindbergh to the Comet, first jet airliner to cross the Atlantic. 10 years later, Buzz and Neil were standing on the moon. You know who my big hero of Apollo 11 was? Collins, because he was really lonely out there going round and round, a guy I've always respected. But inspired by solar impulse, we will make this journey from the edge of the Antarctic only surviving on renewable energy. We've been out there. It's a huge battle. You may not think it is. It's a huge battle to get ice melted through solar to water that's warm enough to then rehydrate your food. And working with Dr. Ryan, don't laugh, because he's going to be torturing me. We're going to be working with your life support team on various ways, perhaps weeing into plastic bags. I'm really looking forward to it. And God bless his soul, my son Barney, who's 21, has volunteered to come with his father on this journey to make it relevant to young people. This time we'll have big communications. This time we will have, internet, social media, the whole thing. And I'm proud, after speaking with our chief scientist Jacob today, to be part of working with you to get this message out. Because this is the truth. It's not somebody else's problem, it's ours. And it's ours to solve. And I think that's a great challenge. It's very, very exciting. Please join us, either in Antarctica. We need you. And please stay in touch with us, because we need people of your caliber, because NASA is all about the future explorers. And I think one of our future explorations is to survive on Earth, as well as go up there. So good luck to you all, and thank you for listening to our story. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Swan. We have time for a few questions. If you have a question, please line up in front of the microphone in the aisle and ask one succinct question, and go ahead.
Thanks very much, sir.
Yeah, hi. I was recently in Australia, and I met a fellow named Tim Jarvis. Do you know about Tim Jarvis's expeditions to Antarctica? He simulated the Shackleton mission.
Yes, I do. Yeah, he wore some of the old clothing, and it was amazing what he did. Yeah, I do. I've never met him, but I know of him.
He also went to the Arctic. And now he's climbing all of the mountains out close to the equator that still have glaciers to bring attention to the fact that we're losing all of our glaciers on the Earth.
Yeah, he's an excellent chap, and I think the more that one can be using adventure to gain people's attention, obviously present company accepted, but people do spend an awful lot of time kind of looking down. We need to get a bit of looking up going on at the same time, and Tim's a great guy. Thank you very much for that. Good man. By the way, it was cold, if anybody was going to ask it. Yes, sir.
Robert, thank you very much for the talk. It was awesome, and I want to go to Antarctica with you now. Very inspired. And also
Thank you. I'm serious. Drop us a line.
And also thanks for all the inspiration that you're giving here and all your talks that you're giving around the world. I think it's very important. One thing that I've been noticing over the past 10 years is that inspiration alone and getting people to hear about it is part of the solution, but not the whole solution. One of the biggest hurdles we're running into is legislation. For example, solar power is a great solution. On our building, we have over 3,000 square feet of space to put solar power. However, it is almost financially prohibitive to install more solar power than we need for energy. For example, we need about 1,000 square feet to cover all the energy needs for our building. And we're like, well, we're going to put 3,000 feet and we're going to be able to provide more energy. No, because, for example, PG&E will sells you power for 30 cents a kilowatt hour, but they will only buy it for 4 cents.
Yeah,
so there's a legislation issue here that cannot be that we're not being able to overcome just with letting people know about it. So what's your advice on that?
It's a really tough issue, and I'm working with a really great guy called David Crane, and he is the chief of a company called NRG, Energy, and they're energy providers, and he's very realistic. And he says, if you asked him that question, he would say two things. One is that only 50% of people in the United States vote. So I think there is an issue that people should use the power that they have, they've been given, to vote for people that hopefully might change legislation. Now you're going to say, yeah, I've heard that before. But it's an issue. We need to address that. I think the second one is that we've just got to keep trying. And that if people can, get a solar panel on the back of their iPhone 7s or whatever they are now, right, put it on. If you can get a solar panel onto a backpack in your garden, on the window of your home. I think it's really important that it's hard to change that mindset because it should happen. Look what happens in Germany. On a bright, sunny day in Germany, which is a powerful nation, on a hot, windy day in the summer in Germany, over 50% of their energy comes from renewables. Because they did what you're saying. They made it possible for people financially to do it. But I think the point is we must never give up on it. And that is bluntly why I'm going to go back and get a bit cold back at the South Pole to keep pushing it. And it's really hard. It drives me nuts. And I'm an Englishman, here in your country, that there seems to be this block. But look at the power of NASA. Look what you've got. So keep inspiring, keep people, keep pushing, and get people to vote. I know that's a pathetic answer to your question, but there's not much more I can say. But check out NRG on the internet and this guy David Crane, because he could answer that question a hell of a lot better than me. So have a look at him. He's cool. Thanks for that question. Yes, sir.
Thanks for coming. Really appreciate the time.
You're welcome.
My question is more on the personal feat, the physical aspect of when you got to a very tough mental state. Like, where did you dig in to get that extra drive to take you and finish your goal?
It's an extremely good question. I would say that, there's two ways of looking at reality. One is to pretend about it, and the other one is when it faces you. So on the South Pole, no radios, no backup, nothing. There was always in the back of your mind, up until that halfway point, that you could go back. But once you got past halfway, you couldn't. So in a way, I'm not a brave person. I put myself in a position by calculating certain risks that I would have to deliver on it. So I couldn't get out. That helped, actually, to be honest with you. It helped because there was no way back. I think that personally, on many occasions, and I'm not just saying this because of where we are, I often, when I'm in a tight spot, think about where I am on planet Earth. And I don't have to tell all of you, that it goes on quite a long way out there. And I often think, that I've chosen to be in this position. I'm just this micro, tiny dot trying my best. And that it makes me feel less selfish and less kind of worrying about me and complaining about things in my head when I think of the enormity of where we really are. And I think the other thing is that if you make a choice to do it, especially if you're the leader, you can't really start moaning and complaining. You've just got to do it. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe one more for the road. Anybody else like to ask one? Well, let me finish by saying that we're trying to work together, Jacob, Chief Scientist, and our little team at 2041. And Shayna's here. You'll meet her later. Let me tell you that I would like some ideas. You've heard the story. There may be no relevance at all to any of you, but I hope you've had a nice time. But if anybody's got some ideas on how we could do a few short clips, some YouTube clips, to help some of the messages that you're trying to get out, we're up to help. And I will drop my son in it by saying that my son also, who might be more relevant to young people out there than me, he would help also, you know, and how we're going to get ready, and what's the technology that we're using, and how we're going to eat, and how we're going to, with your life, support people, wee into plastic bags and make food and do all those things. So if anybody's got any ideas on that, I'd be hugely grateful for them. And Hasita from India, who's here, and Shayna's going to be here for a little bit longer. I've actually got to abandon ship fairly shortly. So I wish you all the very best of luck, and good luck with what you're doing, because it's important. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much for an inspirational talk, but also for a talk that gives us a vision for 2041 as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jacob. Thank you.